Hello, I'm Mike with Coat and Tie Productions, and I'm going to be your tour guide today to teach you how to make sausage. Making your own sausage allows you to save money, control your product, and also have a fresh product. The ingredients include 6 pounds of pork shoulder, 1.6 ounces of your favorite seasoning. This particular seasoning package makes 25 pounds of meat. So therefore we have 8 ounces. So we need to divide 5 into 8 ounces, and that gives us a portion of 1.6 ounces, which is enough to season 5 pounds of meat. I have found when working with sausage it's better to work in 5-pound increments. Pink cure number 1 is added to the meat in order to ensure against botulism, but it also has another great effect. It keeps the meat nice and pink. This is what's usually added to bacon. It keeps the bacon pink before cooking. You may notice here that this is probably enough pink cure number 1 to do about 1,000 pounds of meat. When making sausage, exact measurements are vital. You must measure the ingredients exactly, so you need a good scale. Also, you want to get a scale that can handle heavy amounts of weight over 5 pounds. This particular scale has an extra container that holds the meat separately. Also, you want to add 2 stainless steel bowls, enough for hold 5 pounds of meat. It's important that your knife is very sharp. This particular knife is a skinning knife that I use to cut my pork. I use a powerful 1800 watt grinder with variable controls. You're going to want to store your sausage in these 2 2-pound plastic bags designed just for pork sausage. Then we want to take the extra pound and put it in the other container. Because we're working with pork that is near freezing, you're going to want to use a good pair of gloves. Now let's get started. We want to measure out 1.6 ounces of our seasoning. Remember, this measurement needs to be exact. You have to add 1.6 ounces to our 5 pounds of cut pork. Now we're going to add 1 teaspoon of pink cure number 1. Again, this has to be measured exactly. 1 teaspoon is added to our spice, and then we mix it in thoroughly. This will ensure that the pink cure is properly distributed throughout the meat. Now we go to work. Cut your pork into 2-inch cubes. Make sure they are small enough to fit in the grinder, but large enough to be able to hold on to the spice. Just cut the meat up in 2-inch cubes and place it into the stainless steel bowl. The key to good sausage is a nice distribution of fat. Fat must be added into the pork in order for it to fry. This particular pork butt has excellent fat content. Let's speed things up a bit. The pork shoulder will have a bone called a blade bone. Cut around that bone and use the bone for soup. When you purchase your pork shoulder, make sure that you buy over 6 pounds of pork. The blade bone accounts for about 1 pound of extra weight. Now we're going to measure out our pork. Make sure you measure out exactly 5 pounds. If you use too little meat, your meat will be too spicy. If you use too much, you won't have a proper amount of flavoring. Here we have a bowl that is capable of holding 5 pounds, and so we're measuring out 5 pounds of pork. Now we're going to add our spice. Add a little bit of meat, then a little bit of spice. Mix it thoroughly. We want to get every piece of the pork infused with that delicious spice. Add a little bit, stir, wait a few moments, add a little bit more meat, a little bit more spice, stir it up. Again, we're making sure that every piece of meat has some spice. Now we need to put the meat and the grinding equipment in the freezer for at least 2 hours. We want the meat to be nearly frozen when we grind it through the grinder. This ensures that the fat does not melt when we begin the grinding process. While we're grinding, the meat and the spice are being mixed together. Remember, we're using near frozen meat, so the fat comes out nice and thick. What you want to have happen is the meat and the fat to be separate. Now we're going to stuff our pork in our 2-pound bag. I have measured out 2 pounds of meat in the stainless steel container, and I'm using a funnel to shove the meat into the bag. It's a bit sticky, so it's going to take a little bit of doing, but keep at it. You'll get that pork in that bag before long. There you go, 2 pounds of fresh pork. Now, we never add sage to the pork that we're going to freeze. But because this pork is fresh and we're going to eat it right away, we can add the sage. Always add your sage before you fry your meat. You never want to freeze sage. Now, this container will go into the refrigerator to cure for 2 or 3 days before we eat it. There we have it. 5 pounds of fresh sausage. Now, we don't want to freeze the bag sausage right away. We want to let it cure in the refrigerator for at least 4 to 7 days. That pink cure number 1 will keep it nice and fresh. The other 1 pound, we want to keep it in the refrigerator for 2 or 3 days. Who are we kidding? Let's have some now. Thank you for watching. My name is Mike, and this has been a Coat and Tie production.